Lee Pro 1000, the number one complaint is always primer flow into the stage here. So many people have had troubles on it that they've just given up on this system and primed off this system and then fed the prime shells into it, so they didn't have to worry about the primers fitting into here. But if you do have problems with the primer feed, the first thing to do is make sure that this chute is clean, there's no dirt in it or powder in it, and there's no burrs in it. And if that's good, the next thing you can do is make sure that there are no primers that have formed a bridge here, not letting the primers go down. The next issue is that when this comes brand new, this plastic has a lot of spring to it. I've had this one for over 4 years now, and it's hard to tell, but the spring has gone out of this plastic. It is not very springy. Some people, as soon as that happens, they just buy a new chute and put that in there. And how it's supposed to work here is that there's a little wire here that when it goes up and down, it rubs on these grooves here, and it's supposed to bounce it. And you can see here that the plastic has aged, and a lot of times that little screw, that little piece of wire there doesn't even touch it. A common fix that a lot of people use is they get their own piece of wire and put a bend in it. So when that goes in there, they bend it around so it's constantly touching here. And that works pretty well. It works satisfactory. Of course, the big problem with this is if you're not paying attention, this can come unbent here and you're back to not touching again. If you're not paying attention while you're loading, then this could jam up on you. Another solution I've seen is they put a wire band on it here. That goes up and down. You can see it's now catching that. And it is rattling the pins in there. Someone else had also put up that they put an ideal clamp on this, so as that pin rides over it, it bounces the primers around. Yeah, it seems to work, but it's not very elegant. A different solution is somebody suggested putting a rubber band on here. This is a hair tie. I find they're more reliable than the rubber bands. But you can see, yeah, that does kind of work. You can see it's shaking the primers a little bit around there. But it does seem to interfere with the shells going around here, so I don't use it very often. I'm afraid it won't release the primers when it's supposed to. And of course, too, it's not very elegant. Now I'm going to add a spring mechanism to this side over here. I just wanted to let you see what it looked like beforehand, because it is kind of hard to see once I get into the system. So here's the spring added to it. This washer is here, so you could still put the pull chain for your powder mechanism through here if you wanted to. This system actually is very consistent. You can hear it shake on a regular basis there. And again, though, these parts are hard to machine and hard to get in there and hard to wiggle around. If you're like most folks, you have a lot of old cell phones laying around, and inside the cell phone there's a little motor attached to a weight that vibrates when you don't want the ringtone. And you can see what this looks like. I'll energize it now. And you can see it vibrates very well. I clamped the vibrator to the primer case there, And I'll energize it right now. And if you look, it actually works quite well. It vibrates them all around. And of course, the shortcomings to this is you have to have a power supply and find one of these or buy one off the off eBay, excuse me. You could also glue this on. Obviously, you don't have to clamp it on. Most people glue it on. Some people have a little switch on their handle here to turn it on and off with a momentary switch. Some people put a little switch down here, so every time it passes that area, it vibrates it for a few seconds and then lifts up. So there's a lot of different ways that this little vibrator could be activated. Another way I looked at was bending sort of like a hook out of a piece of wire that went in here, made a little dip, and then came out. And there's a leaf spring right on there, and it works fairly well. Again, it's not very elegant. And the leaf spring rides up and down there, and it keeps tension on the system. And one of the fallbacks on it is hard to put on there. It comes off in two pieces. You have to be kind of adept to put it all on. The next step in evolution was to make a little shepherd's hook here and capture the leaf spring on there. It's not too bad for putting on and off. Just goes on there and twists. And it does a pretty good job shaking the things, the primers that is. And it's easy to take off when you're done, just a twist. The next step in its evolution was a piece of wire that was bent in the shepherd's hook, and you can see, I'll get on the focus there, you can see it just has a little wire there, and it's spring loaded, and it's super slick to go on. You can see here, just slide it in, turn it, and it works quite well. You can see the primer's shaking around there, and it just rides up and down. And this is what I consider the best solution out of all of them. And in the next picture, I'll show you, I have a schematic, and you can download off this schematic. I'll put it in a Dropbox if you want, so you can print it out and make your own. If you're not interested in making your own, but you'd still like to have one, I'll put a link I'll put a link below to eBay, where you can buy these off eBay. They'll be $5, including shipping and handling. And I'll have approximately 10 that I've made up for anybody who wants to buy them. Thanks for watching, and hope this helps. Also, you can look at my channel on YouTube. There's a lot of other videos for the Pro 1000 and different solutions to issues.